The Lives of the Saints, by Father Alban Butler. January 20th, St. Sebastian, A.D. 288. St. Sebastian was born at Narbonne in Gaul, but his parents were of Milan in Italy, and he was brought up in that city. He was a fervent servant of Christ, and though his natural inclinations gave him an aversion to a military life, yet to be better able, without suspicion, to assist the confessors and martyrs in their sufferings, he went to Rome and entered the army under the Emperor Carinus about the year 283. It happened that the Martyrs Marcus and Marcellinus, under sentence of death, appeared in danger of being shaken in their faith by the tears of their friends. Sebastian, seeing this, stepped in and made them a long exhortation to constancy, which he delivered with the holy fire that strongly affected all his hearers. Zoe, the wife of Nicostratus, having for 6 years lost the use of speech by a palsy in her tongue, fell at his feet and spoke distinctly, by the saints making the sign of the cross on her mouth. She, with her husband Nicostratus, who was master of the rolls, the parents of Marcus and Marcellinus, the jailer Claudius, and 16 other prisoners were converted. And Nicostratus, who had charge of the prisoners, took them to his own house, where Polycarp, a holy priest, instructed and baptized them. Chromatius, governor of Rome, being informed of this, and that Tranquillinus, the father of Saints Marcus and Marcellinus, had been cured of the gout by receiving baptism, desired to be instructed in the faith, being himself grievously afflicted with the same distemper. Accordingly, having sent for Sebastian, he was cured by him and baptized with his son Tiburtius. He then enlarged the converted prisoners, made his slaves free, and resigned his prefectship. Not long after, in the year 285, Carinus was defeated and slain in Illyricum by Diocletian, who, the year following, made Maximian his colleague in the empire. The persecution was still carried on by the magistrates in the same manner as under Carinus, without any new edicts. Diocletian, admiring the courage and virtue of St. Sebastian, who concealed his religion, would fain have him near his person, and created him captain of a company of the Praetorian Guards, which was a considerable dignity. When Diocletian went into the east, Maximian, who remained in the west, honored our saint with the same distinction and respect. Chromatius, with the emperor's consent, retired into the country in Campania, taking many new converts along with him. It was a contest of zeal, out of a mutual desire of martyrdom, between Saint Sebastian and the priest Polycarp, which of them should accompany this troop to complete their instruction, and which should remain in the city to encourage and assist the martyrs, which latter was the more dangerous province. St. Augustine wished to see such contests of charity among the ministers of the Church. Pope Caius, who was appealed to, judged it most proper that Sebastian should stay in Rome as a defender of the Church. In the year 286, the persecution growing hot, the Pope and others concealed themselves in the imperial palace as a place of the greatest safety in the apartments of one Castulus, a Christian officer of the court. Saint Zoe was first apprehended praying at St. Peter's tomb on the Feast of the Apostles. She was stifled with smoke, being hung by the heels over a fire. Tranquillinus, ashamed to be less courageous than a woman, went to pray at the tomb of St. Paul and was seized by the populace and stoned to death. Nicostratus, Claudius, Castorius, and Victorinus were taken, and after being thrice tortured, were thrown into the sea. Tiburtius, betrayed by a false brother, was beheaded. Castulus, accused by the same wretch, was thrice put on the rack and afterwards buried alive. Marcus and Marcellinus were nailed by the feet to a post, and having remained in that torment 24 hours, were shot to death with arrows. Saint Sebastian, having sent so many martyrs to heaven before him, was himself impeached before the Emperor Diocletian, who, having grievously reproached him with ingratitude, delivered him over to certain archers of Mauritania, to be shot to death. His body was covered with arrows, and he left for dead. Irene, the widow of St. Castulus, going to bury him, found him still alive, and took him to her lodgings, where by care he recovered of his wounds, but refused to fly, and even placed himself one day by a staircase where the emperor was to pass, whom he first accosted, reproaching him for his unjust cruelties against the Christians. This freedom of speech, and from a person too, whom he supposed to have been dead, greatly astonished the emperor, but recovering from his surprise, he gave orders for his being seized and beat to death with engills, and his body thrown into the common sewer. a pious lady called Lucina, admonished by the martyr in a vision, got it privately removed and buried it in the catacombs at the entrance of the cemetery of Calixtus. A church was afterwards built over his relics by Pope Damasus, which is one of the 7 ancient stationary churches at Rome, but not one of the 7 principal churches of that city, as some moderns mistake, it neither being one of the 5 patriarchal churches nor one of the 72 old churches which give titles to cardinals. Vandalbert, St. Addo, Eginard, Siegbert, and other contemporary authors relate that in the reign of Louis Debonair, Pope Eugenius II gave the body of St. Sebastian to Hildum, abbot of St. Denis, who brought it into France, and it was deposited at St. Médard's at Soissons on the 9th of December in 826. With it is said to have been brought a considerable portion of the relics of St. Gregory the Great. The rich shrines of St. Sebastian, Gregory, and Médard were plundered by the Calvinists in 1564, and the sacred bones thrown into a ditch in which there was water. Upon the declaration of 2 eyewitnesses, they were afterwards found by the Catholics, and in 1578 enclosed in 3 new shrines, though the bones of the 3 saints could not be distinguished from each other. The head of this martyr, which was given to St. Willibrord by Pope Sergius, is kept at Echternach in the Duchy of Luxembourg. Portions of his relics are shown in the cathedral at St. Victor's, the Theatins and Minims at Paris, in 4 churches at Mantua, at Malacca, Seville, Toulouse, Munich in the Ducal Palace, Tournai in the cathedral, Antwerp in the Church of the Jesuits, and at Brussels in the Chapel of the Court, not at St. Gudulus, as some have mistaken. St. Sebastian has been always honored by the Church as one of her most illustrious martyrs. We read in Paul the Deacon in what manner, in the year 680, Rome was freed from a raging pestilence by the patronage of the saint. Milan in 1575, Lisbon in 1599, and other places have experienced in like calamities the miraculous effects of his intercession with God in their behalf.